welcome to NPS Focus. Tonight we are going to be visiting with one of the co-chairs of the cryptozoology department, and his name is Eddie. Wonderful guy. Eddie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Eddie. I am a representative of the NPS page, and as you said, the co-chair on the cryptozoology department. Cryptozoology is my passion, and I've been studying it for a rather long time. Being in cryptozoology and doing all these reports, I've learned a lot myself, and hope to teach everybody as much as I can.
Nice, nice. So, what brought you into the fringe sciences?
Wow. Probably just wanting to know more about what's out there. It took a long time before I had, at least in the paranormal side, a long time before I actually had an experience. So most of what I learned was just reading through stories and books. I've been doing that for a lot longer than I ever actually became an investigator in the paranormal. It was just a few years ago when I started being a paranormal investigator. As the same in the cryptozoology, I was always reading stories when I was little. I had a few books of unexplained things, Bigfoot, other cryptids like that. And it just was something I was always interested in.
Okay, so out of the cryptids that you're being exposed to through like the NPS crypto department and stuff that the members bring to you and through your personal research, what's your favorite? Or do you have one?
I'm going to have to go between Bigfoot and the Jersey Devil.
Nice.
Being my two favorites.
Nice. Now, when you're talking about like Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, is there a distinct area that you find more credible than other accounts or sightings?
I've read a lot into it, and I've talked to a lot of Bigfoot. People that look for Bigfoot, and it seems like he's rather widespread across the globe, let alone just the country. Quite a few different cultures have a Bigfoot in their culture, and usually they stick to, from what I've understood, mountainous ranges where we don't populate a lot. We have two very large mountain ranges that run through the country.
Okay. Which ones what continent are you most interested about those stories on? Is it North America? Do you find it more, the stories more viable and credible in Asia or South America? I mean, is there anywhere in particular?
The two that I've read the most about were here in the country, because I actually would be able to have a chance to go and do searches for him myself. So those are the kinds of the stories that I stick to more. I let the big name investigators go to the other countries. They have the money to spend. I'll let South keep searching for them on other continents.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, things that are more localized and domestic seem to interest me a lot more. I live in the freaking bugs. Anyway, I live in the bed of the Rocky Mountains, and I live in what's called San Miguel County. We're about 30 miles, southwest of Telluride, and I mean, beautiful Ponderosa mountain range. It's amazing here, and people say, well, these creatures couldn't still exist. Man's too populated, dense. We're all over the globe. I beg to differ.
Definitely. I was a truck driver for 2 years, and in those 2 years, I drove to 46 states. And we know, I know personally because I've looked at the National Wildlife Federation website, and there is 11,000 known black bears in this country. I mean, in the state of Georgia. 2 years on the road driving mountainous ranges and back roads, and I've never seen a black bear while I was out on the road. So if there's 11,000 known black bears just in the state of Georgia, and I've never seen one on the road, then there is no reason to think why a Bigfoot couldn't be hiding out somewhere up in the mountains where there's no people at.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely concur. So now we've discussed what you like the most about the fringe sciences and what actually drives your passion in cryptozoology. What in the fringe sciences do you like the least?
Wow. This is a loaded question, and I'm probably going to have a lot of people look down on me for this. I tend to be extremely skeptical towards mediums and psychics and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I tend to try and stay away from that myself. I do have a lot of friends that claim to be some very close friends, but it's still something I'm extremely skeptical on, and I've put a great deal of looking into like imagination, the human mind, and thinking things like that. And I know how great of an imagination we as humans have, and some things are just too easily explainable. And that's just one thing I tend to try and stay away from putting much credit into.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm a skeptical believer. And, you know, being part of the NPS, you know, as a skeptic, you catch a lot of flack, you know.
Oh, definitely.
You're skeptical because, you know, you don't have any abilities, or you're skeptical because you just have no spirit or soul, you know, which I find so hypocritical. I ask questions because I want to know why. I want to know why you think your conclusion is reasonable, and I want to see if I can find some common ground there to find out if, you know, my perception is reasonable.
Definitely.
You know, it's a work in progress. You know, people think with all these brand new gadgets that we have, you know, that honestly look like glorified remote controls, are bringing us closer and closer to these discoveries when our processes are still archaic. There was a gentleman who posted today about taking the spirituality out of the investigation. And, you know, for the investigation, the forensic process, I agree with that 100%, because we like to treat, my team personally treats every investigation like a cold case. And we, half of the team goes in blind, which means they're not privy to any of the information or any of the claims. They see the structure and they go in and they investigate completely off of what they get themselves. And the other part of the team knows exactly what happened. And we keep part of the team sterile just to see if we can get a correlation in events or emotions, unexplained emotions. And I'm a firm believer that every single human on this planet, every single, you know, living creature on this planet is born with an innate sense of communication that we don't, utilize. I don't believe it's, you know, special for James Van Praagh or, you know, this person or that person. I believe it's all inside of us. And, you know, I think as we get older, we get jaded. I think as we establish our belief systems, we compartmentalize those gifts and maybe put them away. Yeah. And I do believe that some people have developed them more than others. It's just like if I was to lose my eyesight, my hearing would probably become very acute. Your senses, you know, make up for one another. And if And if you psychologically shut that part of your life down, how are you going to acknowledge it? But herein lies the problem. How do we prove any of that? How do we substantiate any of that? How do we create a baseline to start moving forward? Well, until every median on the planet starts, a journal, and starts documenting stuff, metrics are going to be nearly impossible to establish. It kind of puts us right back to where psychology was 50 years ago,
Definitely.
So now, how long have you been doing this, the fringe science gig and the cryptozoology?
Oh, wow. I want to say I received my first Histories Unexplained book when I was probably 8 years old, maybe, right around there.
Nice. And how old are you? And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I will be 35 in November.
Oh my God, senior citizens.
So
okay, so
just shy of 30 years I've been reading about and looking into things like that, get off and on.
I totally understand that. So what event or what moment in your career in the fringe sciences are you the most proud of?
Oh, wow. The fact that this is probably the longest running hobby I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I've always stuck with, the one thing I've always, times of bad, gone back to and been able to study stuff like cryptozoology, and just the fact that I've stayed with it for so long and haven't given up, even though we haven't had, extraordinary advances in the field. Nobody's still come across and said, here is a Bigfoot. And that's probably one thing I'm the most proud of. Is
well, now,
hopefully by next summer that will change, because I want to try and get on to a Bigfoot expedition here somewhere close to the southern states.
Nice. Now, is there anyone in the fringe sciences that you idolize or that's your hero?
I understand that TV shows and NPS try staying away from talking about TV shows simply because they're mostly for entertainment purposes, but I am definitely going to have to go with Josh Gates. And his look into the field of cryptozoology. He is a cryptozoologist, one of the biggest names out there, and no matter what he has to go through, he's always stuck with it, and I'm actually going to have to go with him.
Right on. It's a real labor of love, you know what I mean? My husband and I were talking the other night, and what do I really have to show for my dedication other than just an absolute gut feeling that I'm on the right track? If we could standardize a process, which NPS is in the middle of trying to attempt to do right now with Project Endeavor, by standardizing the intake, we can establish some patterns, maybe even if it's just geological, possibly weather-related, any of those anomalies, and that'll help us take a step forward, and that's, we want to jump in and we want to catch Jimmy Hoffa, floating around, or we want to catch, Loch Ness in our bathtub, we want to make that great big discovery. Well, we really haven't paid our dues with deliberate study. Where I live is about 40 miles from where Madame Curie discovered radium.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought you discovered radium in Arizona.
No, Paradox Valley. It's Disappointment Valley, Colorado. Mm-hmm. And she irradiated herself and her husband to death. But if she was nothing, I know, right? She was nothing but persistent, though. You know what I mean? And Einstein, when Einstein was, and when he was creating things, he was talking about one of his inventions. It was 1,000 tries at least, and so here we are, trying it 1,000 different ways. So if we can kind of collectively come to a point where, where you sweep when you hunt, or sweep when you investigate, like out in the forest, line of sight, teach people what you're looking for, educate them on what wild game will do. Around here, that's a big issue. A few years back, they reintroduced some moose in this area, and their tracking is so much different than the deer and the elk. They're huge, and if you don't know what's out there, let's say you're a hunter from another state, you come in and you see that big old track, you probably think Godzilla has had an illegitimate son out there or something, So it's pretty interesting, and the more we educate, and the more we ask questions, the further we can go. I mean, really, I don't really think there are any dumb questions. I just get real tired of the dust photos. So what do you do in your spare time? I mean, is it still all about crypto and paranormal?
Spare time is usually spent watching my favorite show, Destination Truth. That are spent on my Xbox. But recently, now that I've become mobile again, I will be getting out doing some fishing. And like I said, I'm hoping to set up next year going out and doing the Bigfoot expedition, either in somewhere in Georgia, northern Florida, or South Carolina, the three closest places that they go.
Nice. That sounds like a ton of fun. So, are you on a team, or do you do volunteer work? What do you do about teaching others in the community about what we do?
I've actually fallen away from my group. My group is no longer around. I was in a paranormal group for probably 2 years, and they fell off shortly before I started truck driving, and being gone a month at a time, I really didn't have a whole lot of time with it. I found a lot of people around here don't necessarily like talking about paranormal, or you gotta pick and choose who exactly you talk to about it, because a lot of people still look down on it, and people always fear what they don't understand. So and unfortunately, there's no other paranormal groups around here. The group I was with doesn't want us to do investigations anymore. And I've tried to contact the other group that was in the area. That was almost a month ago, and I haven't heard anything back from them.
Establishing a stable team and, having a good rapport with them, and again, establishing a process. That's not easy to do. You know what I mean? It's a trial and error, and just like with NPS, there's attrition. You know what I mean? People come in and people go out because, life brings all sorts of interesting things to our doorstep, and prioritizing. And I understand that too. When are you completely satisfied with your work in the French sciences? Have you ever been?
Never. I don't think I will ever be. Everybody's looking for that holy grail of a video or a photograph of a full application. But even with that, that's just going to re-solidify, everything, and just want more answers. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied. I don't think there's a possibility for anybody to ever be satisfied in this field. Besides answering all the questions, wouldn't be fun is the pursuit of the answers that provide people with the fun of this field.
I completely understand that. So what has been your most challenging role, like in the fringe sciences?
Being a representative of NPS and keeping everybody in line.
How's that working out for you? Van line?
It's working out. It's slowly, but we have a great group of reps, and I love working with all of you guys.
Thank you.
And they're not paying me to say that. It's really true.
I know they're not paying you to say that, because that would be me paying you to say that. All right. The check's in the mail.
Right.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, so here's a completely abstract question.
Okay.
If you were to find a Sasquatch or a Yeti, why would you be the first person that Yeti would talk to?
Oh my. Why would I be the first person that Yeti talk to?
Yes, sir.
Just by happenstance that I was the first one there, maybe.
So you're just saying by default, huh?
Yeah, just first come, first serve, I guess.
No. Come on, dig a little deeper. Come on, Eddie.
Probably because on my end, I would think that because I respect his field so much, but I mean, I'm at a loss for words on how to answer that question.
I know. I'm sorry about the sneak attack with the questions, but hey.
No, it's fine. I don't mind answering them. It's just that's a tough question. Why would I be the first one you would talk to? He or she? I really don't know how to give a good, honest answer to that question.
Okay, fair enough.
Right place, right time, I guess.
Now, the cryptid team is doing some amazing work. You and Ted and Jen and the others on the team, and I've been really, really, really impressed. So, let's talk about the Jersey Devil. Okay. I've been in New Jersey. And Jersey Devil to me is a Jewish girl looking for Macy's. To me, that's a Jersey Devil. But evidently, there's a cryptoid that runs in that direction, and it's said to inhabit the Pine Barrens of the southern New Jersey, and it's supposed to have hooves and flies, but there's kind of different variations. It's supposed to sort of look like a kangaroo type thing with a forked tail. Can you tell me what you know about the Jersey Devil?
They mistaked it for a kangaroo. In fact, somebody had brought forward a kangaroo before trying to make it out to be the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil has a lot of religious backgrounds as well, being the fact that they think it was the devil that came to haunt Pine Barrens. I was looking through my notes here, and they have people that as early as the 1700s that were reporting it. I was going through one of my books, but unfortunately it doesn't cover the Jersey Devil. There was a really good story I wanted to read about it. I was trying to find it. It was the very first story that I ever read about the Jersey Devil. Let me see, I'm looking through my notes here. I was going to read something from it to see if it covered it, but it didn't. Jersey Devil said to be between 4 to 5 feet tall, bat-like wings, leathery, the head of a goat, horns, small arms, which is why they think it was a kangaroo at first, but of course, kangaroos aren't indigenous here unless you want to do. I'm sorry?
It sounds like it's almost like marsupial-ish.
That's what they think, yes. I remember seeing a really good video. I was trying to find it the other day. I was going to post it along with my story on the NPS page. Mm-hmm. It was taken with a night vision camera that was in black and white, and what they thought, what it looked like on the video at first was a deer. And as they videoed this, all of a sudden, large, very large bat wings opened up from its back, and it took off like a shot.
Seriously?
I was trying to find the video, but I couldn't find it on YouTube. I remember seeing it on a documentary about the Jersey Devil.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd be really interested to see that. That sounds pretty amazing.
I would love to be able to find the video.
That's not, like I said, that's, there have been hundreds of sightings, even if not thousands. But, too, is it, some kind of science experiment that, got away from one of the labs up there? Or you guys can see in my background, if you have your video camera on, my 11-year-old son is, doing the military crawl behind me, so he's not in the picture. My kids are characters, yeah. But no, I mean, there have been sightings forever. And, not too long ago, over there on the East Coast, they had that animal wash up on shore that they said was from some lab on an island not far offshore.
The monster, I believe it was called.
You gotta wonder. I mean, we are doing experiments on animals. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, people for the ethical treatment of animals can get a hold of me, but it's the truth. And it's the, way science has been making advances for a very long time. But that doesn't mean that they're not out there doing some horrible things. And, you gotta wonder if that is a possibility. I love conspiracies.
Now, conspiracy is something you and I probably sit here and talk about all night, and I know we don't have all night to talk about those.
Dude, I would bite Jesse Ventura right on the butt. I think he is, wow. I do, I know, I just love him. I loved him when he went up and threw a fit and got into harp, and how many other places has he been kicked out of, I like his no bullcrap approach, but that too is his, selling point. Zach Baggins is a succubus, while Jesse Ventura is just, a hard ass. So
definitely,
right?
Two of my favorites that he did was Plum Island, which actually is off the coast of Jersey.
That's what I was talking about. Was Plum Island, where the animals were washing up. That there were supposed to be infectious diseases. The CDC owned the island, or something like that. Yes,
and they are talking about them moving the facility on Plum Island to Kansas.
They ought to move Plum Island to Guantanamo Bay. That's what they should do.
I personally think they should just shut down and burn out everything that's going on at Plum Island. But if you actually think about it, if they move a facility like what's going on Plum Island, but then doing all of the animal testings on diseases and stuff like that, they moved it to Kansas. Kansas is the middle of all them cornfields, and where we get most of our corn, and we use corn for everything. What happens if one of them diseases gets into our eating supply?
Well, it's not just that. You have to think Kansas is in the middle of the Tornado Alley. The entire state of Kansas. I lived in Kansas. I lived in Chautauqua, Kansas, as a matter of fact. And we were about 40 miles away from Carl Junction, which was on the border of Missouri and Kansas. And it got hit by an F4 tornado. And it took cottonwoods. I mean, it took 120-foot cottonwood trees out by the root ball. I've never seen anything like it my whole life. So unless they're actually going to move this facility underground, into a missile silo type of situation, I mean, there's a lot of problems with it, but also, it's probably already underway, because we only get told about these things, and these accusations only come to light once they're, once it's already done or in process. You know what I mean? And there have been some huge government contracts going out. Army Corps of Engineers, all sorts of stuff. We're never going to know. They're not going to tell us where our money's going. I mean, I know I know it's not $600 for a hammer. You know, give me a break. You know? Sorry. And if it is, put me in charge, because I swear to God, I'll save us some money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so now not me. I mean, no. You know, I wouldn't want to be president, you know, because it's kind of I don't know. I should not get politically involved in this conversation because, you know, people already think I'm kind of a skeptical Nazi. They would not like my opinions on the government either. I think everybody should be fired. I think everybody should be fired until we balance the budget within 3%. And if they can't maintain their budgets, then they're fired again. You know, I love Warren Buffett. I think he's a genius. He's a great businessman. And that's what we need to run this country, is a businessman. We don't need people who have personal agendas for their big oil or for their welfare. So, I
don't think so either, but I think a businessman could do this country wonders, but even businessmen get greedy.
And here we go, you know, like it's like with alien and some of these other issues or sightings. You know, we have astronauts, people that we spend millions of dollars on their training, put them in charge of $1 billion craft, sitting here telling us, oh yeah, there's aliens out there. You know, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, you know, dozens of cosmonauts. You know, all these people are saying they've had these experiences, and yet we don't trust them. You know, a Nobel laureate prize winner. You know, Stephen Hawking, for the love of God. I mean, come on now. Smartest man in the world sitting here screaming, yeah! But they don't want anything to do with us, you know. I'm sitting here having to go, okay. And, you know, like things like with the Jersey Devil and Chupacabra. I honestly think they're two very similar creatures in different regions. I think that, you know, maybe they evolved a little differently, but I think that they're along the same thought process. What do you think of Chupacabra there, Eddie?
Now, I did go back because I ran across an interesting question when I did the story on the NPS page.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that the first recorded incidents happened in 95. And somebody started wondering that she thought she had heard about stories about them before 95. Now, I went back to check into that, and I found that they didn't start calling it El Chupacabra until the mid-90s, but they thought it was some type of vampire that was doing killings back all the way into the 70s. They just never had a name for the creature or never found one of these creatures. And it wasn't until 95 when the actual creature started popping up that they started calling El Chupacabra.
Right. Very interesting. And what do you think? And what do you think that most of the sightings and claims with Chupacabra are southwestern and South American?
That the first one was in Puerto Rico. What I think a lot of people might be finding and thinking of are dogs with mange, but the reports that have gone along with it don't have characteristics of dogs. A dog doesn't wait around for whatever it's killed to be completely drained of blood before it starts tearing in and having its meal.
If you know anything about, you know, dead animals, like, again, I hunt. Yes, everybody clutched their panties. You know, we hunt elk and we hunt deer. And even with clean kills with one shot, there's blood loss, massive blood loss. And it gets all over the ground, all over you, whether you really want it to or not, because of, you know, just the composition of the animal, you know, or human, whatever. And what I find interesting in some of these claims of the Chupacabra is how there's literally no blood left in the bodies. That's a big. The animal mutilations is another thing that I find very interesting, you know, because they've tried to link it to the Chupacabra for a long time. But there's no blood. No blood, no body fluids. That's nearly
I've heard one scientist that tried to give an argument to that is if an animal has been wounded at a major artery, it would only take, now a human, for instance, takes 4 minutes to bleed out if a major artery has been severed.
I beg to differ. It depends. It depends on what artery you're hitting. It doesn't take 4 minutes. You can bleed out in as fast as 45 seconds.
Oh, I thought the average was about 4 minutes, but I guess it depends on how bad you injure yourself as well.
Well, if it's a femoral artery, if it's a femoral or an aortic, you're going to bleed out much quicker.
Okay.
No, it's creepy.
Now, what blood does when you... Yeah, that's fine. What blood does when it starts to bleed out, when it comes in contact with air, is it starts to congeal.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to thicken and congeal, and what scientists have tried to say happens is if let's say I'm laying on my back and I've injured one of those major arteries and I'm bleeding out, they're saying that the blood will congeal and move to the bottom part of the body and slowly leak out and into the ground. Problems I have with that is you would find large amounts of the DNA in the blood in the dirt below my body. And there's still going to be blood around the area. It's still going to be stained a different color. There's going to be evidence of it there.
And decomp. Yeah, and wherever the pooling begins, whether it's internal or external, that's where decomp begins. So there'd be animal infestation and an insect infestation almost immediately. Mayfly I don't know if it's a mayfly, it's some type of fly that they can actually, by the fly larva, tell how long the body's been dead. It's very interesting. I mean, the whole forensic pathology and the science of it is just amazing. And this is where I think that we can take these legends and science and put them together, because something's doing this. I mean, cattle farmers in New Mexico and Utah, Skinwalker Ranch, one of my favorite places. Oh my God. Having cattle and animals. I mean, I'm talking bulls. I'm talking 2,000-pound bulls, and we're not talking petting zoo animals either. We're talking nasty breeding bulls, completely drained of blood, and relocated without so much as a hoof print or a tractor print or anything. So I mean, unless they even checked the area at Skinwalker Ranch when those bulls died for powder spatter. You know how when helicopters come down, they create an air pattern on the ground from the not convection, but from the rotation. Anyway, they even checked it for that. There was nothing. There were still cobwebs. There were still cobwebs on the lock of the trailer. That's a whole lot of hokey that's got me, hook, line, sinker.
Definitely.
I'm suckered in. Or there's something else going on.
The thing with forensics is if, let's say, blood is on your wall and it stays and dries there,
mm-hmm.
blood can be detected 50 years after it's been cleaned off. If it has ever been touched with blood,
mm-hmm.
forensics has a way to be able to tell if it's been there.
Oh, yeah.
And for these places to have no traces of blood whatsoever after a 2,000-pound beast has been mutilated, it's
right.
Something just doesn't add up.
I'm telling you, I'm a Dexter fan. And I've learned, people are going to laugh. A, I want that little black case he's got because it's just cool as shit. And B, I've learned so much about blood spatter and those types of things, and try to apply it to other liquids and things like that. I really try to take a scientific approach out in the field, and I try not to let my emotions carry me away. Sometimes when you're taking a testimony of a child, it's kind of hard because I'm a sucker for kids. They, I guess it's the mom in me type of thing. but I had to really learn how to listen to what they were saying, not how they were saying it. And we ended up learning to record them and find, get to the truth and the science beyond the emotion and motive sometimes. So, it's a huge learning process. And I think we can take the same process that we do for a paranormal intake, in a cold case paranormal intake, and apply it to aliens, UFOs, and crypto. I think unilaterally across the board. Now, let's get on to our next piece. Let's talk about the Mothman.
Ooh, the Mothman. Now, he is not one that I really ever studied back when I was originally reading into cryptozoology.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of information. I was able to get Jen's notes on the Mothman, so I'm going to read some things from her notes that she sent me.
Please. Yeah, please.
That's the wrong one.
I'm ready.
Mothman, or Thunderbird, dates back into the 1700s and was mostly due to, it came from Native Americans. Native Americans have been talking about him for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. He was a servant of the Great Spirit and existed atop the hill and mountains. He was huge, according to legend, caused winds and the sound of thunder in its wings, and even lightning by the blink of its huge eyes. What they think may be the Mothman is, it is sighted mostly in Virginia. Virginia has some large birds that are native to it. And the main thing that they say from the Mothman is that it has large red eyes. A lot of animals' eyes, when they reflect light back, can be many different colors. I'm sure you've seen reflections of cat's eyes being green. Now, from what I understand, a lot of them have seen red eyes. Things can be reflections off of car lights or camera lights and things like that. And I know from what we've studied at NPS, shadows can play a whole lot of things onto the size of something as well. If you see something at night reflecting moonlight, it can look larger than it really is. But the Mothman is allegedly over 7 feet tall, a bird-like creature with large glowing eyes, and could fly at speeds of over 100 miles per hour.
Well,
I'm sorry?
No, well, kind of what you're describing. Like here, we have bald eagles and we have golden eagles. And I actually hopped up on a golden eagle. I walked up up a hill, and I crested the hill, and not 8 feet away from me was a golden eagle, and it was on top of a deer carcass. Or in the middle, let me rephrase that. It was in the middle of a deer carcass, and the deer, decomposition in its ribs were broken. It was an open carcass. And I'm 5'8.5", and I have 44. My legs from my hip bone to my foot are 44 inches. I've got long legs. 34 inches. Right. Anyway, that animal's head. I mean, from where I was standing, I promised you, I bet it hit the bottom of my rib cage where I was standing, because it sat straight up, and then it put its wings clear out, and it scared the holy living poop out of me. I was like, and other than the fact that I was completely mesmerized by it, I mean, when it took off, I mean, I maybe heard whoop like that just a couple times, and then nothing. And I'll tell you what, it was a real spiritual, like, a holy crap kind of experience, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I found out how little I was, but I can absolutely understand in the middle of the night how somebody could mistake one of these large animals that migrate, one of these large raptors that migrate, for something like that.
Definitely.
You know, throw in there, you know, a little bit of religious fear or, you know, folklore, and you've got yourself a legend, you know. Now, another one that Jen did that I'm really kind of interested in is the Beast of Bray Road. Can you talk to me a little bit more about this? Because this is one I did not get to see.
This was one I hadn't heard of until Jen did the story on him.
Right.
Let me get up to my notes on this one as well.
The dog.
Come on now. My phone's acting up.
I have to give, you know, praise to you and Ted and Jen. You guys have come up with some amazing subject matter. You know what I mean? When I'm sitting here, you know, I think of cryptids as this little narrow-minded kind of ideal, you know, Skinwalker, Loch Ness, you know, a few other things. But boy, like, you guys have really come up with an amazing list of opportunities for us to discover, and I think it's amazing.
When I actually started digging into more of the cryptozoology world for NPS and trying to really make the cryptids fly off the page, I was really impressed with the list that I found doing research. I think I may have been a little narrow-minded as to what I knew about the crypto world, and it has really taken off a lot doing some of the research that I've done.
I'm going to have to tell you, I'm completely proud of you guys. I mean, you know, I was wanting to bring awareness to this department because, you know, it's like I said, they've been pretty stigmatized and limited. Boy, you guys lifted that veil and completely exceeded my expectations. And you have no idea how wonderful it is when you just you hand somebody an idea and they make it something entirely different, where they make it something amazing and wonderful. And there's my phone call in the middle of my radio show. You know, I've not done one radio show so far for Focus that I have not gotten a darn phone call. I know, right?
I am very impressed with the work that Ted and Jen have done. We've come up with some very awesome stories.
I know, right?
The Beast of Bray Road. Let's look through this one. Bray Road is a highway that runs out of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. But I found it interesting that the Beast of Bray Road is actually any unknown creature from southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and all the way up into Vancouver Island, Canada.
Holy crap, so that could be my ex.
Wow. It is a werewolf-like creature, so...
Big and hairy with fangs, that could be him.
Exactly.
I know. You're a trucker. You understand. Well.
Oh, my.
Okay, now, the one that I would like to know about is Shordurjur. Oh, my God. Shordurjur. That freaking, the Swedish one, please.
So Jujuret.
Yeah. And you know that I took that and I put that in Norwegian Google to try to get an enunciation off of it. And I came up with some little Asian guy off of YouTube who couldn't say it either.
I've got a translator that translates into just about every language in the world. And the thing I like about it is you can do a listen button and it'll pronounce it for you. And I had to listen to it about half a dozen times to make sure I was pronouncing it right.
You know, when we do these, when we do these, we actually ought to post the link to that. That would be a wonderful resource so that people can, you know.
I'll do what I can. It's actually an app for my Android phone.
Right.
I did a search for a German translator, and that was the best one that popped up. And like I said, it lists every language, probably, I think it's maybe 30 or 40 languages, and you can get it to go back and forth to any language, and you can listen to how a phrase or a word or a sentence is said. But I'll look into the cyptid here for a minute. Let me pull up my notes on this, because I had actually never heard about this until I wrote the stories. But it is a sea creature that is similar to Scotland's Nessie. And I had no idea that Sweden had one of its own. I believe there's also another one that's alleged in, you said Alaska? I think you talked of one.
That wouldn't have been me. Not that I'm aware of. Well, I'll tell you what, if there's
one just a little bit ago.
I'm going to tell you what, if there was an animal hiding, Alaska would be a brilliant place for it to be.
Yes, it would, definitely. It says it's reported to live in the 300-foot deeps of Lake Stojan in Jutland in the middle of Sweden. The lake monster was first reported back in 1635. It's the only one of its kind in Sweden. It just recently celebrated, well, not recently, back in 1986, celebrated its 200-year anniversary. There was a law that was written. I was trying to find it back in 2005. It was revoked. Oh, I believe that was back when they actually revoked celebrating its anniversaries. But it first took off back in 1890 after several sightings with locals saw the creature, even supporting King Oscar II. No scientific results have come from it, but it's never lost its faith. And in 2008, I posted a picture of what a lot of people said was a monitor lizard.
Right.
But the problem with monitor lizards is monitor lizards don't live in Sweden. They live in desert areas.
Well, now, you know, we got to, you know, let's take into consideration there were sightings of dragons in the Netherlands, the Finland, you know, that area. It's not too far off for me to believe that, you know, maybe, you know, in the 13, 14, 1500s, there's still possibly a few pteranodon left or pterodactyls. I mean, what's to say that we couldn't still have some type of, you know, dinosaur descendant still alive, you know, started this transition, started these legends.
What they think the dinosaur that is linked to, such as Nessie, I believe there's one in Asia. I'd have to look into that one a little bit, but they think
Plesiosaurus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
And honestly, living underwater, I mean, I know we had a great flood 2,000 years ago, but being a sea creature, a flood's really not going to affect one that bad if it finds places to hide from it.
You know, biblically, I'm just going to throw this out here. Biblically, that's the rumor. You know, you can come out here and see the Grand Canyon and tell that we were underwater. You know, yeah. I mean, and two, animals adapt. Creatures move. You know, they found bull sharks up the Mississippi. They found an octopus in Lake Michigan.
Finding, I just recently heard of the last couple of years, piranha aren't indigenous to Americas, but they're finding them in our streams and our rivers.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we had an instance up here at one of the lakes called Miramani, and what did they poison it for? Bass. They poisoned it for bass. Now we're talking an isolated mountain lake. You know, yeah, and it's just kind of ironic. You know what I mean? And you know, that's probably from man's interference. You know, but who knows what Mother Nature has decided to do? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, there're just so many what ifs. You know what I mean? I mean, I've looked around town and I'm sure I've seen signs of evolution around here. Oh, they pulled and yeah, my husband just reminded me they pulled a poppy piranha out of the Colorado. A what? A pacu piranha out of the Colorado River not so long ago. So,
oh wow.
You know, oh yeah. I mean, people, you know, it's like with the Florida Everglades, how people had all these imported snakes, and instead of actually, you know, managing their animals, they dump them. You know, so now the Everglades are overrun with these African ball pythons and those types of things, and they're getting huge, and they're actually posing a real threat to the ecosystem down there. So,
and I think,
you know,
what I honestly think a lot of what's going on is people like having exotic pets, and then they find they can't properly take care of them, and instead of getting rid of them the proper way, they were just releasing them in the wild. I know that's what a lot of people that get those big snakes down in Florida, where a certain species of snake isn't really indigenous to Florida, but people are releasing them and finding a lot of those types of snakes down there.
Yeah. Well, you know, and, you know, there's still so many animals out there that we have no idea about, you know.
They discover 30 species a day.
My husband. Here, Telly. You know, you see me on NPS all the time, but what you guys do not see is my family. And this is my husband, Telly. Say hi to Eddie and say hi to Eric.
Nice to hear from you.
Hi, guys.
Good to hear from you, bud.
I know. He's going to heaven. He puts up with me. He said so. You know, Eddie, we are running out of time, my darling. But I'm going to tell you, it was so wonderful to have you here today. And you've been so gracious answering all my questions and entertaining my conspiracy theories and, you know, and my my naughtiness for Jesse Ventura. You know, and Shannon and Sherry think it's just Zach Baggins. No. And I don't, you know, Zach Baggins, he wouldn't be allowed to talk. That'd be the whole thing. But Jesse could talk.
Definitely. I very much miss Jesse, and I wish he would return and continue to do his conspiracy show, but unfortunately he has left the country.
They shut him down.
Well, I don't think they shut him down. I think he shut himself down in fear of being shut down. Because from the last I heard from him, he up and moved to Mexico because it just got too much for him. And he just wanted a nice, quiet life, and he's moved down there and moved on with his life.
Well, you know, bless his heart. I mean, he's lived in the limelight all of his life. You know, going from wrestling to government and that type of thing. And, you know, he's just one of those personalities, you know. He's kind of a John Wayne without the horse and gun kind of thing. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you thank you so much, Eddie, for your time and your effort. And please keep up the good work, NPS. We appreciate you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of Focus was brought to you this evening by the National Paranormal Society. Please visit us on Facebook or visit us at our website, www.national-paranormal-society.org. We are all things fringe science. We are all things paranormal. Unity, education, and solutions. Unity does not mean we're going to agree with everything you say. Education means we're going to ask questions, and solutions is working toward a common goal. And second sponsor is Blessed Bee, your one-stop occult shop, www.blessedbee.cc.
Thanks for having me, Candy.
And my